my god, what am I gonna do? I haven't even scripted for this part. What am I gonna say? Oh my god. My name is randy.garita, also known as ReyGGTV. I'm 21, and I'm a Hilda fan. 2018 was a really important year for me because not only was it the year that obviously Hilda first came out, but it was also the year that I happened to graduate from middle school on a high school. I was never really the most popular or even well-behaved kid back then, and I think a significant part of that has to do with growing up with autism throughout my entire life. You know, as much as my parents love me and I love them, you know, obviously mistakes were made during that time because quite simply, no one really knew how to deal with me. People warn about me and tell others on me that I'm just like the weird kid in town. And I think as a result of that, I was never really given the same treatment as other kids around my age would have been given. Someone who's probably not good enough to make it in the real world. And that sucks because I always wanted to make some sort of difference in the world. I went into stuff like video editing and video production because I felt like that was my sign to be the creative person that I want to be. But nobody really wanted to take me seriously. I got kicked out of a whole bunch of elementary schools. It was that hard to know what the hell to do with someone like me. It wasn't until middle school, however, that things started to get a lot better because sure, you know, I was still in this like special ed circle kind of thing, but at the very least, I was starting to, you know, control my anger, socialize more, have more friends. Which is why I was obviously very excited when I was able to go to high school because the high school that I was going to not only had some of my friends from middle school going to there, but I felt like it was also going to be a place that I could finally express myself in the way that I wanted to. But then things got kind of out of control in the household. One day when my mom was driving me to school, I think I called her something like really bad, which ended up resulting in her hitting me a couple of times. And this had essentially been the final straw to some of the shenanigans that was happening back at home. And so when I got to the school, I basically went to the office near the start of the day and I was basically just like in tears saying that, you know, I was not okay, that I needed help and that I just don't know what to do. I just couldn't take it anymore. Depending on how you want to look at it, that was either a blessing or a curse in disguise because the next day I went into school as usual, as normal, and that's when I was informed that I was getting kicked out. I was getting kicked out of high school already in the first few months. The reason for that being was solely for location reasons. I was really devastated by this, especially because it was really the only place that I could truly feel like I was myself and, you know, I had people that I could be comfortable with, people that I was happy to spend time with. And taking that away, taking really the only place that I felt like I was comfortable with on such short notice was really devastating to me because it made me realize that I was probably never going to be able to see or talk to these friends ever again. And that really hurt me a lot, especially since all this happened because I was the one who said I wanted help, only to get punished for it the next day. Aside from school, I've always really loved cartoons. After school or on the weekends, I would always watch something either on Disney XD, Disney Channel, or Nickelodeon. In fact, one of the earliest hyperfixations I remember having back then was over the movie Cars. Like Cars, I loved Cars back then. I had a Cars blanket, I had a Cars decorated room. I had so many cars. I literally spent hours just rewatching it over and over again. And that eventually transitioned me into liking other animated stuff. Phineas and Ferb, Kick Buttowski, Fish Hooks. Fish Hooks was a really funny one. Yeah, I was a total nerd for cartoons. But it wasn't until I think around January 2015 when I was just watching TV late night when I saw this little show called Star vs. the Forces of Evil. I've already talked about Star plenty of times before, but essentially it was really the show that made me have a liking for these types of shows. And it was like that for a while, and I was able to get some great stuff out of it. But after getting kicked out of high school, I just really could not get the energy to even rewatch these episodes or really do anything involved within the community anymore. I just felt like I wanted to shut myself off from everyone else. But you can only stay upset at yourself for so long, and so on this particular day, I was reminded of the fact that just a couple of weeks prior, there was a show called Hilda that recently came out. And I basically just said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a watch when I'm not really that busy. And so guess what I did? Put on Netflix one day, searched for Hilda, and I think the rest is history.
Starting with a special screening coming up this month at the Gall International Animation Festival.
It's genuinely one of the greatest series in the United States.
Hilda is an animation that's on Netflix. I've done it. That was my third job I ever got.
And those strengths are really zero. And he goes to Hilda.
People cannot even share the same kind of love for something like that, but I think I understand that I'm not happy with how I'm being treated, and that to me is something I find a lot more valuable when it comes to being
to redeem myself. All I wanted to do was to fit right in with the others.
do all I can. She stopped fucking breathing, bro. I don't know what to do anymore.
Hilda absolutely blew my mind in a way that I just can never fathom in words. This felt like the show that I was finally after all this time. I guess in a way you could say that me getting kicked out of high school was the best decision ever for me, because if I never got kicked out of high school, then I would have never watched Hilda. And then none of what I've been able to do now would have been possible. From then on, I just could not get Hilda out of my mind. I went so far as to skip entire school days just so I can rewatch the series for hours. Because honestly, I still just felt like I was the weird kid who never fit in all that well. And Hilda was essentially my escape from all that, because in a way you could say that Hilda herself doesn't really fit in with the rest. Because she's this wilderness girl who's plopped straight into a town she's not even familiar with. And throughout the first season, you see her struggling to socialize and being able to fit in with the rest. And that just felt like something I could relate to in a way. And what was especially really important about her was because obviously you see her struggling, but at the end of the day, she's able to get through these challenges, and the show makes it clear that you don't always have to appease others. Being weird doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It just means that you could be a lot more unique and special than others. It basically taught me that just because you're different and don't fit in like the rest of them, you could still just be this wonderful, adventurous, and amazing person in the way that you want to be. And that essentially gave me the motivation to just keep on trying with my life. I was not able to go back to my old high school, but it didn't really matter for me in the end because Hilda taught me that it's okay to explore and try new things, and maybe this was going to work out for me, and it did. With that being said though, I was still battling a lot with depression, and honestly, if not for stuff like Hilda to come around, I don't know where I would be today. Literally. To this day, I'm always being called weird and not exactly the type to fit in with everyone else. But I'm okay with it because at the end of the day, what makes you is you.